Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Three Sages and a Time Machine. We have the time machine, but one sage is missing. Yes, he didn't really betray us. I mean, he's just full of work. A lot of wisdom is necessary in these turbulent times, and he's so requested on so many different platforms that he couldn't make it out today. But nonetheless, we try to entertain you as well. So, welcome to Three Sages and the Time Machine. This is our third episode, and welcome to this incredible question that I'm posing right here. Is Arizona maybe a portal to another dimension? Because it begs the question due to the information that I've collected over, the last couple of weeks and months and throughout also my life, all the stories that I've kind of encountered, they kind of focus on this state. And since we have been traveling all over the place through Greek mythology, through Sumerian handbags, through Assyrian Mithraic tales. Now, why don't we focus on the United States and let's pick out one of our first and most beautiful and prominent, one of the most interesting and prominent ones that are especially for the matters of alternative research, incredible theories, myth and lore, like we always love to practice. Is one of those big hitters, one of those jackpots. So today we're gonna start also looking at our own territory by picking out the state of Arizona. And without any further ado, let's jump in today's episode and let's see, guys, what's cooking. Yes, that was quick, very quick, right? And now let's welcome the other sage, Dragon Slayer. What's up?
Hey man, how's it going? I'm having a good time, man. I'm ready to talk about some in the US for once.
Yes, right.
Yes.
I thought like, hey, look who we got here. This is Sassy.
Hey,
Sasquatch.
Sassy, how are you?
Oh, the Sassy Sasquatch.
Yes, she's here.
I was thinking of them as well because they're from around there and from the state, or at least or is it? Or sometimes I'm confusing things, right? Yeah, no, she loves it. So you see. So thank you so much for being out here. Hey, Rosita is also here. Vincinger is here as well. Shame on Ryan and Roger Athay that he didn't show up.
Shame.
Yep, shame. But we will compensate. Gay, super gay, with incredible stories. And maybe, I mean, even if it's not really necessary. Yes, we live in Arizona. I thought so. Yeah, I remember it from the interview that we had, guys. That was beautiful. And so I thought, hey, maybe this could be also an interesting show for you guys. But we will also make it in the future. Maybe you hop on, you come on to the crazy squad. Dragon Slayer, why don't you introduce yourself to the immaculate chat gathering that has been piling up here?
Yeah, what's up, fellow weirdos? It's me, Dragon from Dragon Slayer Commentaries. No, I have not banished off the face of the earth. I've just been really busy in real life crap. But guess what? I make sarcastic commentary on movies and TV shows, but sometimes, I do want to talk about all these more esoteric topics. Ooh. Believe it or not, I'm actually quite knowledgeable.
Word, man.
Yes,
wow,
I know. I know
those heavy words. What does it actually mean, esoteric? How can we kind of describe? What is esoteric actually?
Hidden knowledge, or So esoteric means hidden. Or it's just another way of saying divine occult knowledge. Occult meaning hidden. Esoteric knowledge basically is just hidden knowledge. That's all it is. To me, they're interchangeable.
Hidden by whom or what?
Yes. Hidden could be potentially hidden by governments, but sometimes it's usually secret societies or clubs or certain individuals, that want to keep the status quo the same and want to keep you somewhat ignorant, or probably a lot, depending if it depends if you were born with a bag of bricks or not. That's kind of out of the it'll determine how gullible you are. It's like Dungeons and Dragons.
It is
the intelligence score, that thing can differ,
right?
But
and it's I think that's what we do. We are just fascinated with the stuff that we don't, it's kind of hard to grasp sometimes. And sometimes I believe also some of the stories that have been covered up, maybe also for our own sake, for our own health, maybe also to our own safety, right? Of course, it sounds ironic, but I sometimes I think of some stories and I believe like it's better not to have contact with certain entities, and maybe the government is sometimes actually doing its job. But yes, esoteric knowledge means knowledge that has been hidden by entities, by faculties, by governments, by institutions, or not completely disclosed, or made very difficult to reach or to get by. That somehow fascinates us. And today we're discussing this very, very preposterous claim here. It's slightly kind of blown up, but hey, due to the fact that I'm going to present to you today, it really begs the question: what's going on in Arizona? There is so much stuff in history and also today happening, and I thought this is slightly provocative, but I thought, hey, let's ask: is it possible that Arizona is maybe a portal to another dimension?
I mean, hey, it definitely could be. I mean, we all think the same thing about the Bermuda Triangle, and there are a lot of places in the world that have these special properties where things or people go missing,
Yes.
or turn up in a random place they didn't intend to go to because they walked in a certain direction. And we always have those stories of forests, even over here, that is just constantly talking about the fact that, hey, people go here for a walk and then never come back. I mean, just look at the missing, I think it's 411. Please correct me.
David Paulides, and the 401 cases,
Yeah, that's a good example of that, So I think
for sure.
it's very interesting that people don't talk about it as much because I guess people don't realize that these are not like one-off things. They seem to appear in various parts of the world, and they're quite numerous. It's just, according to some people that have experienced them by accident or intentionally, they seem to be stronger or weaker depending on the location at the end of the day. And
no, absolutely. And another thing, the fact that Arizona has been called a portal, that is actually, yes, it's slightly provocative as a title, but this is not coming from me. The Apaches, the Gila tribes, the Pima or Puma tribes, the Usin tribes, pretty much everyone who was, roaming as an Indian tribe in Arizona, and still today believe of the star portals, of the star people, that they're in contact, that there are certain places that are sacred to them, also Apache territory. And we're going to talk about that somehow work and function as portals. And so it's not so far-fetched off, right?
No, yeah, definitely. I don't think it's far-fetched at all. I just feel like people get a little bit nervous when they talk about it because they're like, "Oh God, am I going to sound like a weirdo? Is somebody going to call me out?" No, I don't think most people will call you out. Most people are quite curious. Yeah, there's always that random old fart in the convenience store, just like, "I don't believe none of that. That is bull." That's fine. But let me tell you, man. Somebody better be asking like the government or whoever you want to ask, why is it a lot of people describe places like Arizona or even like states like Arizona or even small locations like Skinwalker Ranch, for example, and similar locations, by the way, where for some reason they say might be like a portal to certain dimension or period of time in the world's history, because weird things seem to be coming out of that location, and the electromagnetic readings are completely off. You gotta think about this stuff.
Oh, absolutely. And I've been to Arizona. Yes, quickly. We crossed it there, and when I was in Nevada, people also told me that around these, desert, even Mojave Desert, of course, in Northern California, these desert sites all over, especially in the West, they have a very strange electric discharge, very interesting light properties. Sometimes they kind of shine up in the middle of the night without any reasons. We've been talking to state park, troopers there, and park guardians that were also part of the Lake Mead park, and they were telling us about very strange encounters, like strange noises, stuff that was happening in the middle of the lake. And even if you had no perturbation or anything happening in the sky, all of a sudden the lake would show up, kind of behavior as if it was stormy and windy. So yes, a lot of weird stories are coming there. Here we have something. Arizona has an incredible high, rate of UFO sightings. Now, where those UFOs actually come from, if these are, one of those secret bases, if they're actually, drones, whatever it is, of course, it's, this channel here and this show is about speculation and fun, guys. It's, of course, we're not any researchers or scientists in the
Correct.
technical term. What we have innate curiosity for those weird stories, and you kind of feel something coming from an angle of a narration, and you want to explore that, and you want to have fun with that, and you want to kind of have a thesis. And here we go. You definitely feel something different when you go to Sedona. Absolutely. I mean, the area on Mars where the alleged Mars face was discovered by the Voyager and also taken pictures from, and where actually another expedition also went there. It's called Sidonia. According to, I think Lucarelli was his name, Domenico Lucarelli, an Italian astronomer who was the first to kind of write about those weird canals and strange channel apparition on Mars, right? And in that Sidonia area, this is where the pyramid allegedly was photographed and the face on Mars. And if you go to Sedona, Arizona, I'm not sure if it's on the same parallel as Phoenix, but there's an interesting combination. Exactly, like if you think about the territory on Mars, it's 19.47 north of the equator. I'm not sure if it's the 33rd parallel on Mars as well, but it's similar to what we have also in Phoenix, right? That is exactly on the 33rd parallel north. So there are some similarities and kind of connections between Mars and Arizona as well. So here it reports that in this area of Yuma, Tucson, Phoenix, Prescott, you have this unusual high activity, this unusual high rate of UFOs and UFO sightings. Maricopa County had about 56 UFO sightings per 100,000 residents between 2023 and 2023. That's a substantial number. If you think about the national average being of 34.3 sightings, right? This is like almost, not double, but close to that.
By the way, I want to mention something very interesting about that with the sightings. So I would have to look up at by the way, John, yes, good to see you, my friend. But I did notice that the more of a secluded area you live, or I should say, more of more of like an area that's not full of too many lights or people. Maybe the sky is clear that night, right? But heck, even in Miami, that you can actually see a ton of lights in the sky that are not airplanes, that are actual UFOs. And if anyone's ever curious about it, like the weird thing that you're seeing oddly move way too off base, then all you gotta do is grab your phone camera and point at it in the general direction, and eventually you'll see something that looks like a very bright sphere that's like constantly pulsating in like a helix pattern, right? Like a multi-layered circular helix pattern, sort of like planets do, believe it or not. And
incredible.
Sometimes there are cases where if you stare at it long enough on your phone, it's like the thing you're looking at either knows you're there, so somebody's watching it, and it will just go from the constant bright light, and then it'll like compress itself and then release it like as in multiple particles and then come back together. I've seen it. I've tried this method multiple times where I think I'm seeing like a oddly fast moving light that I don't think it's an airplane in many locations. I did it in Miami when I lived there, and in southern Mississippi, and usually in an area where the skies are very clear and it's oddly quiet, you'll see a bunch of these flying around. And by the way, this isn't conspiracy shit. You can try this tonight at the comfort of your own house. Go outside your yard or in your balcony in your apartment if you don't have a yard, and just look at the clear sky. If you see a light that looks like it's oddly moving, do the trick with the phone. Zoom in at max to that location where you can find it, and you'll see exactly what I'm telling you. It's actually very interesting and pretty fun because it's just entertaining to watch anyway, no matter what you believe in. And usually, these places, to just go a little bit back to Arizona, these places, the reason why they seem to have a lot of UFO sightings, especially in Arizona, is because of what some people call energy vortexes, which
Mhm.
basically places like Sedona are considered energy vortexes. It's just a way of saying that in those specific points on the map or on Earth in general, these are geographical points that are just emitting
Can
more
somebody
electromagnetic energy. Okay,
can
and
somebody look up if Sedona is also on the 33rd parallel? Because I know that
it's not on the
Sidon
37th. It's not on the
37
37th. It's not on the 37th, but
or
it
33rd,
runs
33rd.
along the southern edge of Arizona.
Okay,
So
okay, I
so
see.
it's very so it's very close, but it's not
Very
on the
interesting.
37th parallel. But yeah, I find it very fascinating.
There have been a lot of portal meditations in the Mojave Desert, and also in Sedona in Arizona. It's a place that is been known, Sedona especially, right, to be somehow connected to energy vortexes, like you were mentioning, to strange appearances that are it's definitely like an area where a lot of people feel that there is something else going on, right? And no matter how we want to describe it now, put it down in words or what it is, what you think it, but that there is definitely something going on. Again, in the middle of this, in this state, there's always seemed to be this connection to these energies, or to portals or parallel universe accesses. There have been many stories. We're getting also to this in part, but of people kind of finding these archways made of stone, and they when they were looking through that, they weren't seeing the landscape of Arizona, they were seeing a city. And they were sometimes like throwing a stone through that, and they could see the stone landing in the city. And there was famously one of these farmers that found one of these archways, little portals. He kind of had a chicken and, tied it to a rope and led it through one of these portals, and then kind of, pulled it back in order to see if the chicken comes, out in one piece, and then maybe trying to jump through that as well. And then he didn't do it. He didn't find the courage, and then the next day, this portal was closed, and he was at that archway, but it just it gave him just a look to the Arizona landscape and not to the city anymore. Crazy.
No, yeah, you're right. I always find it very insane that these people just walk through portals by accident most of the time. It's
Yes.
it's like somebody
What
just
is up?
goes,
It's like let's walk through a portal.
Yeah.
It's happening.
yeah, it's like, oh great, I'm here. Oh, interesting,
Okay,
cool,
interesting stuff.
yeah. Oh, is that what's that thing looking at me? Looks like it's hungry, and then you just start running.
I'm just that's usually how
Yeah.
the movies go.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Here I have a little thing for you guys that I've
Ooh.
prepared. In Arizona, we also have the Superstition Mountain range, or the Superstition Mountains, and they are very, very interesting as well. An absolutely mind-boggling amount of crazy paranormal stories surround these mountain ranges, these very sharp cliffs. in the middle of Arizona, and there is just no way of getting around, myth, lores, and wild stories from Arizona without, mentioning the Superstition Mountains. They really that's their name. Even the Apache called them that way. So the Apache themselves believe that the Superstition Mountain are actually frozen giants. That on top of the Superstition Mountain, you will the cliffs. These are actually giants that try to escape the flood. And here, definitely, we have a link also to our outer stories that we've been covering on this channel, on our shows, that we're always trying to look also for connections, stories that are kind of, intrinsically connected to each other throughout all continents, throughout all, kind of layers of history. We always have these reoccurring themes, as if there is like another truth, like you would say, in a hidden truth, an esoteric truth, like hidden in the history books, right? And so even here, the Apaches and the Gilas also, they were mentioning that giants were roaming around here, that also giant bones have allegedly been found here at the Superstition Mountains. And that, after the flood or while the flood was going on, this was one of the few peaks that wasn't completely covered in water. And they tried to escape just by kind of, going up there, but they couldn't make it. They froze to death ultimately, and now they're part of this wild and very epic scenery. When you get there, it's truly an incredible sight.
It's funny you say like they're talking about giants when, for all we know, the giants are not actually actual giants. It could simply be maybe gigantic statues for all we know.
Yes.
Hell, there could be gigantic monuments that were just buried under,
Oh, yeah.
and somebody saw them and that's all they remember,
Oh, yeah.
And
that's an excellent point for sure. Yeah.
That's something that people don't think about, It's like, hey, something maybe could have existed back there and made either it was organic or it could have been a stone monument for all you know. Like I seem to be leaning more towards the stone, more like stone monuments, because it seems lately there's been more discoveries of megalithic structures that are absurdly tall. Hell, the Moai statues, okay,
yes,
in the Easter Islands are literally gigantic statues
like
of
cyclopean
humans.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And all we can see is actually the top bit because the rest has been buried under dirt.
Yeah. Yes.
So take that into consideration when you're thinking about that, people, because for all you know, a lot of the stories regarding giants, some you can say, oh, this sounds like it's more of an organic one, or actually this could be simply a stone monument. Hell, I'll even go all sci-fi on y'all and say, hey, it could potentially be an actual robot for all we know. An ancient robot that ran on a different energy source. You can never take these ideas away. Okay, I think that you should try to be open to all the ideas and see which one turns out to be the answer until the answer shows up, of course, to prove one of them. And what is this? Okay, John, when you observe these anomalies, it's possible they are being manipulated due to the law of attraction, which emphasizes the power of one's mindset in shaping and influencing the reality around them.
Do you mean that you see true. What you want to see? Is that what you're aiming at, or
it could be done that way? Or I think what he's saying, yes, you're right. It could be that, but also more of the idea of like there have been stories in the alternative circles of people mentioning the fact that
nobody has smashed the like button so far. No, wait.
Shit, what? No, what you mean?
No, guys, focus 1 second. We have a couple of people watching, listening to this incredible information, these inspirational thoughts of these deep-seated, kind of incredible, seeds of truth that, Dragon Slayer is displaying. Not even me, just this guy is incredible. And you do only for that, you should smash the like button. I feel like this is something you could do, right?
It helps us with the algorithm. It gets more people who are, it'll get people who are interested like you.
And you get
interested
also
in our
recommended some
channel,
stuff,
and guess
right?
what? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying.
Hey.
You could also go over to
Yeah.
Dragon Slayer commentaries YouTube channel. It's
And
truly
this
awesome,
guy's
and
channel too.
you
Just
could also
saying.
subscribe. I'm just saying.
You could definitely
You
just
could
subscribe to both of us. How about you do both? Huh? Yeah, exactly.
The subscribe. I'm just saying.
Yes.
Right. Let's get back to topic.
Let's do it.
So Superstition Mountains are linked to a couple of very important names in history, also U.S. history. So there is, like you see here in my in my little drawing, it's the Peralta family, and around the Peralta family there is this legend about the 1848 alleged massacre ground of the 400s, where allegedly 400 people, these killing fields there have been, the Apaches have been, kind of killing these people because the Peralta family was all about gold, and they were excavating stuff where the Apaches, their myth is they believe they are descendants of these thunderous gods, right? They are part of them, and these stones, these places, some of them are so holy. These are their churches, and by searching for gold in their churches, you of course offend their faith, and so they were battling them. If this event really took place or not, as crazy as that sounds, even though it's in history books, is not completely proven. But the Peralta massacre is linked to one of those tales that are super, super famous in Arizona. They're linked to the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. And they are not directly there at the Superstition Mountains. Never been, gold has never been found there, but west and east and north of the Superstition Mountains. So they're at the center of several very heavy gold mines that have been found in the area. It seems like they're at the the epicenter of a big circle of very, very very, very precious metals foundings. And here in the Peralta massacre, there are many variations of the story, but they generally include these details. During the 1840s, the Peralta family of northern Mexico supposedly developed rich gold mines in the Superstition Mountains. In 1848, during a routine expedition to carry gold back to Mexico, the large party was ambushed by Apaches, and all were killed except for a few Peralta family members who escaped. According to the legend, the Apaches buried the gold and covered the mine. However, according to historian Robert Blair, the Peralta massacre never occurred. But what occurred is that a guy called Jacob Waltz, who we have here, who has been always referred to as the Dutchman, but originally a guy from Prussia, that Jacob Waltz found the mine, and this is the Lost Dutchman gold mine. That is actually, I think it's from the 16th century. And later on, the Peralta family was also looking for it. And the Lost Dutchman gold mine has been, at the center of many, like guys, we're talking about hundreds of expeditions, like ground-breaking radar, ground penetrating radar, all sorts of stuff has been kind of done to find the entrance to the mine, because famously the strong-headed Prussian, till his very last breath, he didn't reveal, or he didn't write down, or he didn't there was no map of the mine. It was always him telling people how to go. And in his last breath, also don't forget, Jacob Waltz had an Apache girl as his wife. I think Caitlin was her name, and she allegedly brought him there to the mine the first time.
Convenient.
Very convenient, right? And so on the last breath, he said, when the Weaver's Needle, which is a typical rock formation in Superstition Mountain, at 4 p.m., casts a shadow and you can see it to one of the archways, then you will know the exact position of the entrance to the mine, right? This is really like another Indiana Jones tale similar to what we covered last week. It's incredible what we find, right? Where we talked about the Tayos Caves in Ecuador, and Janos Moritz, right, the first Indiana Jones. And today we have another gold tale, another story about those treasures. But the thing about the like what was very interesting here in the story is that this gold mine never kind of ceased to exist, and it always interested. Oh, show up. Very good. Thank you
Hey,
so much.
hello,
Osiris. Osiris, a
or
beautiful
Osiris.
name.
Yeah,
Osiris.
Osiris.
Welcome to the knowledge bonanza. I like that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, the knowledge bonanza. I think it's pretty accurate to what we do here. Just throw knowledge out there, letting you be exposed to all of this. Of course, remember, we don't tell you what to believe. We're like the Encyclopedia Britannica,
Right.
but for alternative stuff, we just throw it out there.
Yes, we just throw it out
and
there.
have
We
you
make
search
some
it.
connection.
Yeah.
Yeah. We make some connections. Like we're always trying to find the red thread through history and what is all how everything is connected. And something else happened. So that was in 1892 when the last Dutchman gold was, when this whole El Dorado gold digger era was about to end, when everybody was looking for this gold. That kind of started a new treasure hunt down here. There is not far away in the northeast of the Superstition Mountains, there are the mountains of the stars, where the Gila and the Puma also believe that the gods are coming down from the stars, and gold has been found in that area too. And it's very interesting that we see, these entities called gods always being connected to gold somehow, right? And why is that? Is it because that's their representation, because it represents authority? Is it because, like Zechariah Sitchin is telling us, because they need it for their instruments to clear the filters? Yes, have you ever looked in the old buildings in the area? I did, Osiris. Actually, before I decided to go with Arizona for our first, American show, because we covered all over the place, right? We've been to all sorts of wild places so far, and I wanted to start strong with with our United States lore, with our American lore, mythology, and fairy tales. I was thinking about Dakota and the Badlands, because that is another area, and we're definitely gonna cover it as well. There is some strange stuff going on in the Badlands. And again, every time you have this edict that was placed, I think it was in 1919, where all these, Grand Canyon, Yosemite Park, the Badlands, Superstition Mountains, all these areas in the US, they have, all of a sudden been labeled as state wilderness. So you don't have any access to it anymore. You just have very restricted forms of access to it. And by changing the denomination of these parks, they changed, of course, also the accessibility and everything else. But yeah, there is definitely a lot of material that will come up, whether it's the buildings, whether it's when we go to Dakota. I mean, some people claim that these mountain sites themselves, that they used to be buildings, that they are just, kind of over time, they came down and they're completely, part of the rock and the geological. It looks like, if it's like a geological apparition, that looks just weird and strange, right? Grand Canyon and all these other canyons and like Badlands, right? But actually, that these were once buildings, right? There is this claim out there that is truly fascinating as well, and there is some evidence that could also point to this fact.
Okay.
Well.
So for Osiris, basically says, as far as gold goes, I think it's a mislead. If you ever looked into Hermeticism, they actually reference nascent gold, not gold.
Mm-hmm.
That is true. Honestly, I think a lot of these locations, the whole meaning behind like the gold is not really meant to be like the physical metal, more like the spiritual meaning behind it, or like that this is a place where you can find the true golden light within yourself or something like that. Yes,
I can go with that, because the Egyptians had also different meanings for the sun. There was also, Ra is the spiritual sun. There's Horus, which is more like the physical representation of the sun in Egyptian mythology, but Ra is actually the spiritual sun. And then we have also black suns or annihilations of or polarizations, and so therefore, yeah, it could be gold, the physical material, or the abstraction, the metaphor, the spiritual gold that they were searching for, that they were needing. But there are also different gold types in Arizona, which is truly funny. Of course, you have cheap gold, you have cat gold, you have different fool's gold, right? Pythier, I think it is called in its mineral name, or Pura. It has like a weird name, right? Yes, there are different gold types. Also
Peridot,
there.
you mean?
Huh? Is it?
Peridot?
Is it that? I don't know. Let me see. What is
How does
fool's
yeah,
gold?
I'm curious. Oh, fool's gold?
Yeah, fool's gold.
Oh,
Pyrite. It's
pyrite. Yeah.
Yeah,
I only
sometimes.
remember that because I was because when I played World of Warcraft, that was literally like a high level area ore, so to
Interesting.
speak. So and I learned something. I learned it was a real metal, and that's when I was like, oh, okay, the game taught me something. Just a little fun tidbit there, everyone.
No, absolutely. Games, sometimes if you really kind of pay attention, there are interesting details and little, info nuggets hidden. Absolutely. Here we have the city of Goldfield that was basically, kind of brought to the ground through a flood that was. You have to understand, these are actually old volcanic fields. Superstition Mountains is actually. It's 6 different craters that came together and over time kind of founded this, and so you have different cavities that are inside, and if you flood them very quickly, you can have like massive floods coming out of these boulders and these edges and rifts, and they like these flood. It has been said, the Apache said that
wait, so you're telling me that Rings of Power took real life inspiration?
Yes.
No.
Yes. They did.
Unfortunate. Oh, damn it. I thought they made this shit up. Anyway.
No. You don't derail, man. It's always nice to have a conversation, and if you want to add something knowledgeable or something interesting, for sure, this is why the chat is there.
That was more of like a oh no, Osiris, my bad. I thought you were talking about me. No, Osiris. I do that by nature. Osiris, man, you are not derailing anything. We basically do this all the time.
We are the tangent kings for a reason, right?
Yeah, the tangent sages at this point.
The tangent sages at this point. No, absolutely. Don't worry, man.
All good, man. We love these kinds of questions. We do. We like the spontaneity of the questions. And hey, if any of y'all are watching the recording and you want to throw crazy questions that maybe you want us to answer in future podcasts or streams, guess what? We'll take them and we'll pick the best ones. We'll talk about it. I think it's going to be very fun answering all of y'all's questions. Just saying.
So just coming back, absolutely. And we were definitely also working on making this program, the stream, accessible to more, kind of resources and servers. We're definitely thinking about podcasting it also. So give us some time. We have to bring these 3 crazy minds together. Everyone is busy, and inflation and starvation and stagflation and all the flations. They are not helping us with finding the right organization, the other Asian. And we also have, to honor Saturday Night Hypnosis. So give us some time, and during the dry summer months, we definitely will work on kind of buffing this program up and making this an amazing stream for everyone with packed of knowledge and fun, for sure. So coming back, the Superstition Mountain's been said that the Apache sent this flood to Goldfield because they were digging in one of their sacred mounds, and so Goldfield has been completely covered by this flash flood, by this instant flood that was caused in these old craters, and has never been recovered since, as punishment, because of course the white guys were invading sacred territory. The Gila call the giants that once roamed this area the Gwindipits, the Hopis, talk about them as well. That's very interesting because around in this area, giant bones of tall people have been found pretty much all over the place, right? It's absolutely crazy. And even Apaches that were, Geronimo, right? Very, very strong, powerful Indians feared this area during night. They would tell you, don't don't you dare to come out here at night. Because at night, the people that are coming out of the caves, out of the cavities, out of these, inclusions beneath earth, they come out at night. They hunt, they roam the area, they do their thing. They sometimes also distract wanderers and hikers. They, sometimes they play games on you. They're sometimes cruel. So you don't want to be out here at night. Another crazy story that you will
like
find.
European fairies.
Exactly.
Go figure, like European fairies.
Hey, Brad is also here. Pat, what's up,
Ooh.
my man? Absolutely. And actually, talking about the UFO phenomenon and abductions, it's interesting that it's also linked to the fairies, that somehow we see the same results, disorientation, as if people were hypnotized. Abductions, they all happen in the same, very similar territories, and somehow they could be also linked. Some of the abduction stories could be also linked to what we know as, when you think about Stranger Things and, the world that is flipped, the upside down world.
Yes, that's a good way.
Right? And we have all these stories about these, cave people, about these people living in these tunnel systems, in these old canals, in these cavities beneath the surface. So a lot of these abduction stories of the grays, of the little people, could be actually more linked to inner Earth, to the inner Earth phenomenon rather than to the UFO phenomenon.
But don't forget, there's also the stories of basically in certain parts of these mountainous areas, random weird creatures coming out of them at night,
yes,
and then
yes,
vanishing in the middle of the day. Like I said,
yes,
they never
yes,
existed, and we're talking
yeah,
like random places where they vanish.
yes,
So that's
absolutely.
also like basically it's like the upside down world from Stranger Things is
Right.
coming alive, or like there's a little open hole that shows that basically at a certain time these creatures would come through. It's a very interesting theory because that's actually mentioned quite a lot with a lot of scientists.
The volcanoes themselves, like he was been saying, yeah, we have the Potemkin volcano, also the Potemkin crater, I think, Potemkin crater in Siberia, where we have very strange occurrings. Trees that are growing closer to the crater ground are actually higher than the other trees, and it's strange stuff is happening also with sensors, instruments, technical instruments that are not really quite working there. We have in Mexico, we have also La Área del Silencio. There is actually like a 30-mile passage, right? Close, not bordering, but it's not so far away from Arizona as well, where planes are not allowed to fly over anymore. They have to kind of make a little deviation from that, kind of take a detour, because it has been like in a massively over disproportional time has malfunctioning systems when you are flying over La Zona del Silencio. So planes now are kind of taking a little detour because it's been happening so many times.
Well, yeah, you don't want them to run into a random UFO or creature smashing against the plane. Just saying.
Right. Again, as I showed you also the map before, we have not only here the Superstition Mountain that are definitely a focal point of, guys, I mean, if I would just start to tell you all the stories surrounding just this little mountain, well, it's not that little, but it's also not that huge. It's not gigantic or anything. But the stories surrounding just that mountainside in Arizona, which is one of many mountainsides that are truly interesting. Like we have the mountains of Estrella, Superstition Mountain, Mount Graham. We have many mountainsides in Arizona that are surrounded by interesting stories, but the Superstition Mountainside especially is, of course, also through the link to the gold, to the lost Dutchman gold mine, and to everything that happened there. But the stories surrounding this mountainside, we could fill hours and hours and hours. Just incredible. I just tell you, from copper axes that have been found, portals to other dimensions, people seeing reptilian beings like bipedal, like standing on 2 feet and walking straight, skinwalkers, hermits walking around, little people seeing in the cracks sometimes, strange occurrings, different lights that lead you in different directions, people that have been hiking these mountains for forever and ever all of a sudden disappear. Then we have also the headless points. There is an area close to the Superstition Mountain where, people they were kind of telling people, hey, we are pioneers. We want to find the Lost Dutchman gold mine. And they've been found without a head. And it's been claimed that the Apaches have this old secret law, this old fraternity, it's like a secret society where they promise to protect the entrances of the Superstition Mountain. They would physically kind of, hunt for people that would try to find the entrances to the holy places. It's absolutely crazy. So this site alone is like incredible. It's just surrounded in a thick cloud of truly like paranormal stories. Giant bones have been found there. All sorts of different materials and minerals have been found there that make no sense. Caves that couldn't be perlustrated anymore because they kind of sealed overnight. Absolutely crazy.
No, yeah, I think you're right about that. Again, this is one location, people. This is all you've heard so far is concentrated in a single location in Arizona. Okay.
Over here on the left, of course, we have Tucson, and the biggest elevation there is Mount Graham. And if you don't believe me, guys, look it up. The Vatican built in holy Apache territory, right? And battling them over years and years, right? If it was just about your observation, they could have, gone, to another place that somehow could have, no. They needed to go there to Mount Graham. They battled years in court. They won, of course, the court case. And so they built one of the largest observatories that the Vatican has ever built on top of that mountain. And the name of the lens is Lucifer. You can't make this shit up.
Wow, it's like, wow, very on the nose there.
It's right there.
Very
right?
on the nose because Lightbringer and all that shit.
Yes,
You cannot get more obvious at this point.
If you ask the sages, the Apache sages, our colleagues, respectfully, of Dragon Slayer and of myself and Ryan Roger Ethe, the hermit that didn't show up today. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Shame on you. Shame on your family. Shame on your cow.
Yes. Never. And subscribe. Nonetheless.
Yes, do that. Do everything you see there.
So for years, the Vatican has built sun observatories all over the globe. But the fun thing is that if you look into the sites, most of the times the site is holy. Whether there was in Chile, now in Arizona. I think it is also one in Canada. We have many holy sites in Rome, right? Pagan stories where the Vatican has built whether churches or observatories on top. And an Apache, one of the Apache leaders that is still alive today in Arizona, said the reason why the Vatican, or all the people, for what it's worth, but the Vatican most of the time is building those observatories is because on those sites there is a lot of power, and they believe that they are harvesting this power. Now, if you are harvesting power and you have a device that is truly huge with an immense lens that can create an immense focal point, I wonder what you do with this power that you accumulate once you have that cannon with that lens in place, right? I'm not saying it's a weapon necessarily. You can also, with laser, you can also transmit information. You don't have to destroy matter. You can transport matter or waves. So I wonder why the Vatican is using all these holy sites to put all these observatories on top. Maybe because, like the Apache is suggesting, is that they have some sort of of energy transport, of any sort of communication going on, and they're using these sites to power them, propel them.
I can maybe shed some light on that.
Please.
It seems, So it seems that with some of these sites, there's been talk in a lot of these circles, especially in the ancient knowledge, that there are certain places like Mount Graham that have this focal point of energy gathered. By energy, I actually mean more like electromagnetic energy, like natural electromagnetic energy that comes out of the planet that has been researched scientifically, by the way. Some of these focal points exhibit more energy than others, but it's also been known in many ancient and modern esoteric circles that some of these vocal points have a specific connection to, say, a point in time, or in our case, space. So, in other words, um, if you believe the theory that the universe is a very interconnected web of everything, right? That would mean that the planets and stars are also, and moons are intricately connected to one another through various focal points that they exhibit throughout their surfaces. And there's been some beliefs that if you put something like, say, an observatory or a place to gather data, and you allow it to sort of harness or make use of these energies, even if you cannot create a device that can harness it to its full potential, the fact that it was built there and that it's using something like lenses, which are made of glass or a special type of crystal, guess what? Usually crystals and glass are very good at, say, transmitting energy information and amplifying it to show a better picture. So it's no surprise when they build observatories or temples, or that was in the past, now they're churches, or mosque or whatever. The reason why there's so many temples and observatories in these places is because of the energy that they exhibit. These energies can either provide a lot of information, okay? And by the way, if y'all hear that noise, that is because it's pouring out there, and I hope there's no thunder that goes off, because that's loud. But what I was trying to point at is these locations can either put you in a receptive state where it's easier for you to receive information or to acquire information. See what I mean? For example, if you go to any church, go to any church, temple, mosque, does not matter. Go to any place that has a building like that, okay? And when you hear the acoustics inside of those temples, okay, or of those churches, and say you hear a choir sing, or say you hear the music sing, say you hear the person talk, like your preacher or priest or whatever, right? If you hear these people talk inside this space that is full of stone, but also glass, that is located at this specific site, the sound, if you would have heard it somewhere else outside, you would have been like, okay, whatever, sounds neat. But because you're here, okay, and because of what you were taught long ago, but specifically because you're in that specific location, and you're open to the information you're about to receive, the sounds of the vibrations of, say, your teacher, priest, imam's voice, plus the music that comes in there, it creates a strong reverberation, okay? Creates a very strong oscillation of frequencies that make you more receptive. Now, that could make
Mhm.
that could be translated into good or bad, depending on what the message is about. Okay, but again, that's all subjective to the individual. But the result, the data speaks for itself. The result is still the same. It makes you more receptive to that information, whether you're naturally inclined to not receive it or accept it. It just amplifies it further. Okay, these are sites that amplify, that
I
are
totally
energy
agree.
amplifiers. Okay,
Yes.
and so
Also, when I was in the
yeah,
desert there
yeah.
in Nevada, we went to the to the black mailbox, to the last gasoline station before
Ooh,
Area 51, to all these crazy places. And the desert itself, now strip it away from all these Hollywood stories, whatever it is, you feel that some places are loaded with energy, that there is, and it's not the heat, it's not just that,
Yeah.
it's why is the
You can
heat
feel it.
there? Yeah, ask yourself, why is the atmosphere so, like, quote unquote charged? Because there is electricity. You can feel it, that there is something going on. Why you think all these American secret, more or less secret bases at this point, right, have been built, there, especially there? Because there is something about this area. Why do you think the Vatican is running in with the state's biggest observatory and wants to place itself exactly where, all the Apaches believe that those powerful grid lines have their biggest culmination point, right? I think that there is some sort of a pattern here that we can clearly see in Arizona, that there's some sort of a magical, mystical land, right? Everybody talks about the same phenomena, that there is some sort of connection, that even if you're there at night, you see so many stars, it's almost creepy. They seem to be like literally there. You are completely engulfed by them, right? If you just turn off your car, that's literally it. There's nothing else. It's and that
and Coach, here's a better part.
Right.
Well, I want to mention one fun thing before you go back to it, because this will make everyone else go nuts. So, if anyone's ever been to St. Peter's Square, or, for example, near the obelisk of the Lincoln Memorial, here's a fun fact for you. Ancient Egyptians believed that obelisks were the ankhs that basically captured and that were amplifiers, so to speak, of
that's why you
the
always
natural
had two.
energies of the earth, right?
Yes.
And it's no surprise that in St. Peter's Square, okay, in the Vatican, there is an obelisk right in front of the Vatican.
Yes.
And here's the craziest part of it all. The Freemasons, okay, this is not conspiracy theory, this shit is confirmed in actual historical documents. When individuals who were part of the Freemasons built the Washington obelisk, it's no surprise that they built it in front of a memorial, the Lincoln Memorial, which at this point, a lot of Americans consider sort of like a sacred temple to.
It is a mausoleum, absolutely. Yeah, it's a temple.
It is, but
it's even written there.
Mausoleums
in this temple.
or temples, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And the obelisk in the Vatican, crazy enough, is surrounded by a pool of water, which, if you guys don't know, there is evidence, there seems to be some more prevailing theories that under the pyramids, that the pyramids were built,
of course,
like a lot of these big pyramidal structures throughout
water
the world.
Access,
were built under very ancient water access caverns that for some reason have abnormally high electromagnetic energy readings.
Yes.
And there are these theories that most likely the water was mixed in with mercury in order to create a type of sound vibration that when it made contact with quartz crystals that were embedded inside the megalithic stones of these pyramids, at a certain point, I guess if you call it its heyday, it would have emitted a type of energy signal. Now, of course, this energy signal would have been weak when it comes out, but it was stable. Now, imagine the fact that these obelisks look like freaking antennas, like our antennas. Now, our antennas suck in terms of looks, but if you compare an obelisk to an antenna, and the fact that they were made of the same prevailing quartz embedded material as the pyramidal structure, and that some of them were even built surrounded or near water sources, it's no surprise that a lot of people believe, both in and out of the archaeological circles, okay, that some of these structures could easily act as energy amplifying structures.
Yes. Now, if you look, for example,
craziness. This is
no, absolutely. Yeah. So here it is. First of all, you're spot on. So every obelisk, in order to function, needs water, right? And an obelisk is invalidated in its function if there is not water. Also, from the spiritual esoteric meaning, because of course the obelisk is the male principle, being the erection, and the water, of course, is the female principle. You have 0 and you have 1, right? You have the binary code, you have Adam and Eve, you have the magician and the head. The obelisk always needs the water fountain. It's fire and water, blue and red. It's all that. It's also the rings of Saturn. It's everything you can think of. The obelisk is also called Abu Garib, which is the needle of light, which actually is also a name of Abram, right? The ram of Abraham, which is the needle of light for the religions and the Fertile Crescent. So you could say that the obelisk is also a representation of Abraham, because the year back then started in March with, of course, Amun-Ra, right? March is the wither, it's the ram. It's the guy that opens up the year. That's why we have an Aries point. This is where actually calculus for the year starts. It was then changed from the lunar calendar to the sun calendar to Janus, which is a Roman god. He's the the liminal god of the entrance, the gate god, right? The door god. And then it has become January. But before that, it was the month of Aries. That's why it's always on a Mars field, because the obelisk also stands for the planet Mars, because Cairo, believe it or not, it means Mars. So you need water to conduct electricity. Now, why do we have the towers of Bologna here? I know we're slightly derailing from our usual, but here, just to kind of show you the concept. So this is a pretty, I know it looks like almost like a futuristic design, but actually the first skyscrapers were built in the 13th century in Bologna. These were towers all over town. And at their fundaments, you can research this, guys. Just really quick, you found crystals everywhere at the foundations of these towers. And you see here that there is this sort of they're alluding to some sort of firmament. What you got here, this is a dome. And it's an energy dome. So the city of Bologna in the 13th century knew how to harvest the dynamic of, electricity coming from water that has been, put into a whirlpool, therefore creating, of course, electromagnetic perturbations and torque. That torque was captured by these ram towers that were all filled up with quartz crystals at their bases and their corner, and they were producing energy because they were, conducting stone, limestone, quartz, and everything, and kind of shielding Bologna against enemies.
Yeah, I mean, hell, if you had, look, I'm not trying to sound all sci-fi here, but shit, if you had a reactor that that could put out energy, and you built a bunch of like towering structures,
that's why they brought them down.
That could amplify that energy. Shit, that could create a literal force field. Again, me just saying. I am.
And then we're talking about 13th century, right?
Yeah, exactly. So now it could be that somebody just thought it would be funny, or just aesthetic.
It's highly improbable, right?
But it's highly improbable, exactly, because you don't know what these people could have thought at the time. And also, they took a lot of time, money, and effort that nobody would say yes to it just for fun.
Exactly. And ask yourself why on old maps you never see Rome, but always Bologna depicted as being the capital of Italy and being the most prominent city of Italy. Because there's been also some historical mumbo jumbo going on. But hey, guys, let's come back to Arizona, shall we? Let's come back to our original story. More weird, absolutely crazy stuff coming out of Arizona. It's Ron Quinn's, the other big gold name that we have in Arizona besides Jacob Waltz, aka the Last Dutchman, is of course Ron Quinn. His stories are absolutely amazing. You have to research them as well. He also talks about the connection of electricity and these sites in Arizona, these powerful old church sites for the Apaches. And he has also found a gold mine that he is, he thought that the Jesuits left this gold mine there, and that they just covered up and digged up the whole material, and then waited to come back, and he found it in the meantime. So he thinks that somehow Arizona is connected to some sort of another energy field, that somehow that there is some sort of like an opening that people from other realms can interact with this realm through Arizona, as if that there is like this people need to go through this portal, this arch, and that all these sacred sites, like the Apaches, like the Hopis, like the Gila, the Puma, like they're all saying, right, that these sites are connected to another realm, that there's some sort of an elevator to another dimension.
No, I agree. I mean, look, I mean, in terms of links to another dimension, look, let's be honest here. There seems to be a lot of them. Now, by other dimensions, people always think, oh, we're going super deep into paranormal. But again, you do have to understand that we literally live in like a dimensional reality, as in like, we do our measurements in dimensions. We literally live by the laws of mathematics. So it shouldn't, at this point, a dimension should be considered more like just another layer of reality. Okay, it shouldn't
Yes.
be something that people get mad at or terrified at. Yes, okay. Could there potentially be a weird, creepy creature in the back, or some asshole that just won't stop annoying you? Okay, yes, but it would be interesting to just find out if it's real or not. And, a lot of people that are curious and I'll say brave, either in a good or foolish way, have maybe gotten their answers. Now, of course, we will never know because a lot of them have disappeared. And the ones that do talk about it, well, let's be honest, they didn't go that far. Okay, they kind of were. They kind of found the bouncer, and they were told like, "Get the fuck out of here before I hurt you."
Yes.
I'm just saying that seems to be the stories lately. I mean, what do you think? I mean, let's be honest here. Look, I'll give you I'll give you a funny explanation. All these dogman stories that we see around on the internet, okay?
Or Birdman stories.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Skinwalker, but mostly dogman stories because that's what people are more familiar with. All these dogman and Bigfoot stories. Why do you think that only people that find out about them only encounter, these kinds of cryptids deep in the woods? Well, the reason, and ironically enough, a lot of these encounters are in areas that if you research them deep enough, you'll find some really old article from 200 years ago that says, oh yeah, this area actually used to be a sacred site for this Native American tribe.
Right.
And it's kind of weird, bro, and it exhibits a lot of energy. And once you hear about that, you go, well, shit, maybe these guys are guarding this location, or maybe they're the bouncers. They're told to keep people out, or hell, let's even think a little bit deeper here, guys. Maybe they just live there. And before you go thinking, oh, Dragon, that can't be possible. I mean, when have we ever encountered a situation where we found people that are just living in an area and they threaten to kill you or kill you, because you trespassing on their sacred sites? Bro, I can name, let's grab a book, an almanac, and just pull out a Native American tribe, or better yet, there is a tribe in an island off the coast of India, correct me if I'm wrong, that literally has made it very clear to the entire outside world that if you try to go there, they will kill you. They do not tolerate trespassers. Nobody knows the reason why. And there's also tribes in the Amazon that do the same. Okay? So there must be some reason for protecting these kinds of places. And the only reason I can see it is that maybe there's sacred sites or vortexes, as some people call them, or portals. I mean, we'll be fancy here. Portals that maybe. Wow. Yes, Brett, the internet is definitely another dimension of madness and wonder, I'll say.
Yes, I mean, the internet is like a computer, you could say, that is a portal to the parallel universe that is internet, if you want to call it so.
Exactly. And Brett is correct. Yes, it's either keeping people out or keeping something in.
There is no joke. Like there is a state park in the middle of India, which is like it's a huge state park, and you're simply not allowed to go in there because they say that this is a sacred place for the inner earth beings, and most of them are cannibals, so you're not allowed to go in there also because they would eat you, right? And there are certain tribes of the Kali ramification tribes that go there and bring their human sacrifices, and they at the door, at the gateway where you can actually enter the state park, and to keep them calm, right? And most of the entrances or exits, right, depending on how you want to see it, have been sealed, and there are just a few entrances that are highly guarded also by the Indian army, and they make sure that the people guarding these entrances don't stay in the area for too long, so they can witness anything. They're just there to guard, and then they will change them every 2 months or so. They have weird shifts, so no pattern can be established. So not somebody will be there twice. There's no chance to let people meet that have been there, so they can exchange stories. So they are going into a lot of there are a lot of strategic planning to never. That they're making a huge effort, so the militaries that are going to this area will never meet afterwards, or don't have the chance to talk about it, which is truly weird. And this is it's a real story. In the middle of India, there is this area that nobody knows what's going on there, and the legends are just wild.
No, yeah, I agree. I agree about these wild stories, man.
Yeah, I was just rambling through archways that are portals in Arizona. Then we have the the horse ghost phenomenon.
Ooh.
So Arizona,
horses from beyond.
Yes,
tell me more, Coach. I have not heard about this actually.
Apparently, Arizona is a hotspot for ghost animals, where ghost animals appear, especially horses. And they make the sounds. You believe that there are true horses coming. They're stampeding, and then you look around, and there's no horse to see, and there are no traces on the ground. This has been like a reoccurring theme, especially with horses. Dogman sightings, like you've been saying, cryptids, or cryptozoology also comes into place here. Arizona is definitely places where we, of course, with the giants and everything. But yeah, there's this phenomenon of ghost horses that are just kind of roaming through the area and just popping up widely here and there.
Yes. You know what? That's crazy that you say that, because now, guys, you can all make the joke that Andrzej Sapkowski was onto something when he wrote The Witcher, because they talk about the situation where Ciri encounters a unicorn in the desert. So hey, and Arizona's in the desert. So hey, maybe he got it from somewhere.
Right.
Now you can try to find unicorns yourself, everyone.
Just
go to the desert. Drink some water, because that won't be the kind of unicorn you want to see.
Yeah. I have a truly amazing story. It's a true story. Yeah. A friend of mine, director, one of the directors who massively influenced the look of the movie The Matrix. He was actually the director who came up with the latex, black, shiny, towards green backdrop type of look for a commercial was shot a couple of years before that. I think it was in '94. And he contributed with that also to kind of establishing this look for the Matrix movie. And he's one of the most famous commercial directors on this planet, one of the most awarded directors for ads and commercials around the globe. So he's a very observant, very interesting guy. And he has worked pretty much all over the globe. There's not one place he hasn't been shooting movies with. Stars also like Gary Oldman, Billy Zane, Robert Carlyle, like great people. Like we're talking about someone who was, there with them, right? So one day he was in South Africa and shooting close to Mozambique. There's this area where it's also pretty deserted. And he was shooting there in the middle of this little desert. And the night before he heard those strange stories. He's always also like one of us. He likes to hear stories. He's not really a researcher or per se like a believer, but he's definitely someone who you could you say, yeah, he's a truth seeker. Is definitely curious. He listens to a lot of stories and tales, and he was down there in South Africa, and they told him the stories about the children of the snake, or the children of the cobra, of the python, something like that. And it also involves star people and star portals and all that. And he was out there shooting this commercial the day afterwards, and I was still thinking about all these concepts. And they had a little break because they had to change, because back then they were shooting with film and pellicula and not digitally. So there was a little change, and also dust particles. They needed to clean the camera a little bit. And he took a couple of minutes out. He just moved away from the set, and he walked a little bit into the desert. And he had these thoughts about, the children of the snake and these portals, and probably also a bit hungover, a bit jet lagged and everything. He used to live in Munich in southern Germany.
That explains a lot.
That explains a lot. And maybe also still under the influence of I don't know, alcohol from the night before. And he was kind of seeing this huge stick on the ground, like this huge, beautiful wooden stick. And he thought about kind of using it for the commercial. And yeah, he was looking at it and already thinking about how to kind of, shoot it and how to crop it. And he was about to grab it, to finally reach out and to grab it, where he says, Lorenzo, he told me the story a couple of times, and it's incredible. He says it, and there's no reason for me to believe he's not telling the truth. Every time he's telling the story, it's very compelling and incredible. So he was about to grab this wooden stick that was there in the Southern African desert. And in the moment he's trying to grab it, there is someone, a black fella, on a bicycle, dressed in white, without any shoes on. And he's coming from his left. That meant from, northern direction. So he's coming out of the north towards him. And on this bike, he's shouting to him, "Charlie, I wouldn't do that." So he says his name, and he tells him not to touch the stick. And Charlie that's his name. He looks back to this bicycle and to the rider. He's like, "Why?" Instead of asking, "Who are you?" Right? And he says, "I'm just saying I wouldn't touch it." And so Charlie turns around to the stick and looks at the stick, and the stick is a snake. He realized that the stick is a real snake, and it's kind of sliding in the ground in front of him.
What?
And he thinks, "What?" And kind of looks back to the bicycle man, and there is no one. Just he turns around, and there is absolutely no one. He sees his set, which is a little bit in the background, and there is this desert, and there's no one on the bike. There's no one there. It's just flat in front of him. And all of a sudden, he kind of, goes away from the snake that still moves, right? And what he does, he takes the camera and takes pictures of the snake, so he knows he's not hallucinating, and looks back at them afterwards. And yes, it's a snake. He took pictures of a snake that appeared to be a stick. So he always tells me the story, and it's like, I don't know if it was my subconscious kind of popping up out of nowhere, or if it was truly like a shaman, like a ghost that was just riding through the area and kind of, warning me. He still, to this day, he doesn't know what or exactly happened that day, but truly it saved his life.
No, that's kind of crazy you say that, because there's always like there's always stories surrounding, like, if you go to the certain area and you touch this object, actually it's some that'll basically do bad things to you. It's like a trap designed to snatch you or get rid of you. And there's always stories of, like, say, a guardian or somebody like takes on the form of someone that looks very familiar, that actually like the mystery man that your friend mentioned always wears always seems to be wearing white clothing. Sometimes they have shoes,
Yes.
sometimes they don't. But it's
Yes.
always someone that knows them by name, even though they never met this person before.
Yes.
And they say, "Oh, you wouldn't want to do it," like in the most like nonchalant way, like
Yes.
buddy, maybe you
Exactly.
don't want to.
Maybe you wouldn't do it.
Maybe
No.
it's like that. They talk to you like that friend that they see you're gonna buy some really expensive, but they know that you're not really gonna use it that much, and they're like, hey, bro, do you really need to buy a pair of $200 shoes? Like, come on, man, you can find better quality for like 120 less dollars. That
Yeah.
sort of mindset, and I think it's very interesting that you mentioned that because that actually happens quite a bit, believe it or not. It's in many places. Like every person either has like their own guardian or like in certain areas just have like this weird guardian entity that always takes on those kinds of forms. I just thought it was fascinating because you can even find it in a lot of ancient stories. Hell, you can even use the story of Jesus wandering the desert for
Yeah.
40 days and 40 nights. You can use that story and say the same thing. You can put, except somebody, you're wandering through the desert and you have this entity that's like basically trying to tell you beware, and or leave.
Yes.
That's what I always think about it. But I just found it fascinating. It's a pretty good story, by the way. Your
It's
friend
yeah,
has
it's
got to encounter some bonker stuff.
wow. No, he had always great stories. But this one truly like got me. Just the way, also when you look at him when he tells the story, you can clearly, whether he was hypnotized or otherwise, there is no way of faking such transparency. He truly believes, and he has always like little details, things that he remembers. So like, in my opinion, this story completely checks out. It seems to be totally credible the way he tells it, the way he always adds details, and also it's just his demeanor. He absolutely believes that this happened to him. I also had,
That's neat.
yeah, that's absolutely neat. I think your body. I mean, Charles Lindbergh famously, but we always have to look into these stories as well. He famously said he left his body right in order to kind of overcome the fatigue and controlling the flight of his plane, even though his physical body was sleeping. So he was overseeing the flight over the Atlantic Ocean. Famously, Peter Lindbergh, the Spirit of St. Louis, a pilot, 1927, I believe it was, right? A postman, a daily post, a pilot that crossed the Atlantic. I wonder if there was enough gasoline in this plane, because nowadays they claim that they have, you need a certain amount of fuel in order to cross the Atlantic Ocean. And I wonder if I look at this old machine of the Spirit of St. Louis, how that kind of, checks out there. But, if you are up for something that is truly, that somehow forces you to bring something that till this moment was necessary from your body, from your mind, from your focus, all of a sudden you are able to do amazing things, right? And maybe even imagine a black guy dressed in white without any shoes riding a bicycle, kind of warning you in a very nonchalant, funny way about the stick that you're about to touch. So sometimes your brain needs that extrapolation, that duplication in order to really believe the message. And so yeah, the subconscious works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Also, if you kind of if you cram through these stories in Arizona, you might think, hey, well, maybe these are tricks of your mind. But since they are very reoccurring, they're always happening around the same places. They always kind of have certain elements attached to them, and even people that are 50 years apart are always telling about the same observations and same experiences and discoveries they made. So it begs the question, maybe they are truly all seeing the same thing, right? And Arizona especially is a hotspot for ghost horses. The ghostly padre who warns people not to go into the gold mine, or just all the stuff that Spanish soldiers that appear at certain nights. I think it's during the equinox where old Spanish soldiers all of a sudden come up, similar to what we see in Lord of the Rings. So again, when you hear all these tales, all these lores, all these myths, also of course regarding the ancient Indian cultures living and roaming there, because today of course it's not comparable anymore to the connection that these people felt when, back then. I think what this Apache tribe, like clans member, was trying to explain is if you occupy all these sacred sites, it's like cutting them off from the energy grid. It's like, kind of making the field smaller, making the sensitivity less high, making the amount of electricity of charge in the air less intense, and therefore kind of reducing the magic of the place, quite literally. And this is interesting because this is exactly what people said about the pyramids, right? If you are kind of, when you are entering these holy sites and you're taking everything away in terms of material, and you change and you declutter them, and you kind of let people in, like also in Machu Picchu, you're infesting the site with energy that doesn't belong to that place, and over time the site loses its power, loses its strength, loses its capability of transmitting its original information.
No, yeah, I agree, Coach. I mean, in terms of like of Arizona, what? Oh, hold on, wait. Let me get this. Oh, okay. So yeah, I just saw Cyrus type something. Okay, let's see. I think plane fuel is BS. Airplane wings are mostly moving parts and hollow from the outside. But am I supposed to believe several tankers of fuel can fit? That's
no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't absolutely. I believe that's why I mentioned this. I believe there is another way of propelling these machines. It has way more to do with sound than actually with fuel, with combustion, and that's why it's so interesting. Also, if you look into an A380-800, the biggest airplane, passenger airplane on planet Earth, they say they can store 110 tons of gasoline in their wings. Now, I flew in a couple of times with this monster. There are no fuel tanks in those wings. There simply aren't. There is so much gear, there's so much stuff in there, and it needs to float. So I wouldn't also propose to put fuel in the place that has the most tension. That wouldn't make sense from an engineering standpoint. Why would you put the most flammable material into the section of the plane that has to withstand the highest pressure? Therefore, it is exposed to the highest friction, therefore it warms up the material the most, right? You would place the fuel there where the material would stay consistently the coolest and not the hottest, right? So even that explanation itself doesn't really make sense, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, you're right. And we got another one. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. So this was in reference to your desert story. He says, you see weird shit when you're in the middle of a field in the middle of the night. Some stuff does make you wonder if what you saw was actually real. And mostly it's just weird lights and stuff in the sky. Yes, Brett, it's actually very interesting you say that, because that seems to be the common sightings that people see when they're in the middle of nowhere. Random shining lights, either in the sky or above the tree line. I think I've told this story before in the past, but if not,
It doesn't
I'll repeat
matter.
it
Your
again.
voice is so marvelous, and it's
Oh,
beautiful always to
well, thank
listen
you,
to
thank you.
the melody of your intonation.
Well,
So you
well,
can tell
well.
the stories again and again. I would always listen to it.
Oh shit, he's telling me I could be in an audiobook. Huh, interesting.
Yes, that's the next project, ladies and
Oh.
gentlemen.
But yeah, no, there was
Behave.
behave.
Yeah, you did it like you did an Austin Powers there.
Yes. Behave.
Behave.
Oh, what a great set of movies.
Yes.
But to mention the story, basically there was one time, I believe this was in, I'm gonna say probably 2017, late 2017, or maybe I think it was late 2017. I was working at the time in my parents' restaurant when we were still in Mississippi. And when I came back home late at night, like at 9 o'clock, believe it or not, I wasn't trying to look for nothing. It was just a clear night sky. My house is in view. There's a very long what's it called, half circle driveway. I don't remember how that's the word for it in English. Forgive me, chat. But here's the crazy part of it all. I look at the tree line to the left of my house, and out of nowhere, I see a bunch of random blinking lights. We're talking red and white
Interesting.
blinking. Yes, mostly like red and white blinking lights, right? A cul-de-sac. Thank you, Osiris. So yeah, I come up with on the cul-de-sac in my house. Look on the left-hand side of the left-hand side tree line right behind my house, and I see red and white blinking lights. And it came after focusing a little bit more of my eyesight on it. Turns out these lights were coming from a very strange triangle shaped craft. No, this is not me bullshitting. One time I remember I recorded it
What?
on my phone. Yeah, no. I recorded on my phone one time as well, but I think this was years ago and the recording may have been lost or deleted. But I do remember very vividly that as I was watching this thing, it was hovering just slightly above the tree line and very slowly moving forward and just moving very slowly through the tree line, and it barely made a noise. Now, what a lot of people don't seem to understand is these craft don't people always say, "Oh, these craft don't make any noise." No, they do make
They
noise. But
do.
the thing
Yeah.
is, when you don't notice, you can't hear it that much because it sort of has the same concept similar to what electric cars are trying to emulate, which is basically if you've ever been walking near a electric car, like a Tesla, for example, you'll notice that it does make a noise, but it's not as obnoxiously loud as, say, the traditional engine. It's very faint, right? Well, these kinds of craft, they seem to be using the same type of energy source where they emit a very low sounding hum noise.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Now
That's
you
it.
can
That's
actually
a
hear it from quite a distance away,
yes.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, you have to focus
Yes.
to listen to
Exactly.
it
That's very
because
good. Very good how you put it.
yeah, it's barely
That's how they power
perceptible.
planes. That's how they
Yeah.
power everything. It's harmonics.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah,
always sound. It's that
but it's barely
frequency.
perceptible.
N-
Supposedly from
That's
what
also
Bob Lazar
ultimately
was.
why they
Yeah.
killed Michael Jackson, because he was completely aware of this fact. He was the only
Oh,
one who possessed the master tapes rights. You couldn't change his master tapes that were all programmed on 432 megahertz
that
harmonics,
is right. Yeah,
and
you are
Sony
right.
wanted it to change, which it did with all the other artists
440, I think it was, right?
to 440, which creates confusion. 432 creates
Yeah,
symmetry. And
yeah,
this is why,
and
and Michael was aware of how changing harmonics would change the emotional state of any human being, right?
he was a musical genius in general, and
He's
it seems he was quite
absolutely
aware
one of
that
the greatest artists.
unlike most artists.
Absolutely,
Sorry, Chad, we're going on a tiny little tangent. I'll come
yeah.
back to my story.
Eh,
Yeah, but y'all need
no.
to understand the reason
Also,
why
we
Michael
need to
Jackson was so good is because the man was the type of
just
musical
connect
genius
it. He was
that
electricity,
you
pure
don't see
char.
these kinds of musical geniuses
No,
in
he
very
was
often.
in complete, control and connection with his art. Yeah.
The man could come up with insane,
Yes.
well-sounding harmonies in his head. He did not know that Lionel Richie even mentioned in the documentary
True.
regarding the Urge song that
We are the world.
Michael had, yeah, we are the world,
By the
that
way, you can watch
Mike.
it on my channel, the COACHMC Studio. We got
That's true.
a
Yeah,
video
yeah, yeah, yeah,
covering the creation of that song. And by the
yeah.
way, we need to close the program in a couple of minutes. I'm sorry. We need to
Oh
go.
no!
We have
Well,
a
to
very
finish my
important manifestation. But no. Finish the story, please.
yeah, sure. Well, let me finish. Let me go quick. So basically, I saw this thing hovering through the tree line, and ironically enough, it did not make barely. It was barely perceptible the sound unless you focused on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, then again, it might have been because I was really far away from it,
Mm-hmm.
and by far away, I mean like, oh, good lord, like I would say about, well, from the way I was looking at it, could have been even further away, but it could have been at least, couple hundred yards. Oh, I'm going to say like at most maybe 600-800 yards away from me, maybe a little bit less. But this thing was just slowly hovering over the tree line like nothing. And then, just out of nowhere, it just kept minding its business, hovering,
Really?
hovering over the tree line, like as if it was trying to like survey the neighborhood area or finding a place to just kind of stay there. But it was being very silent, very nonchalant about it. And worse enough, the damn thing was basically hovering over the tree line right behind my fucking house. Now, here's what I did at that time. I basically said, well, if Steve the alien wants to abduct me, I don't give a fuck. I am tired. I worked in the goddamn kitchen for hours. Okay, I want to take a bath.
Get me out of here.
If you want to probe me, Steve, go fucking ahead. I won't remember shit. Okay.
Oh, that was
So
hilarious.
yeah, that's your boy Dragon just not giving a shit
Thank you, man.
about a potential random abduction.
We definitely have to collect, like we have to do a Three Sages and and a Time Machine campfire stories where we kind of tell just personal
definitely.
stories like that.
There's
Guys,
a lot of these. Yeah.
thank you so much for coming out, chat. You've been crazy today. We have a lot of beautiful, comments, questions, interactions. This is exactly what we're imagining to do in the future with just more people, just with you people. It doesn't matter because it's just fun exploring these incredible stories, the connection behind it, how everything could be somehow related, how all these stories match wherever we go. And I'm truly happy that we closed this first episode about our own territory. There are definitely some other stories from the States, from other territories that we're going to cover. Definitely, I see California also being one of the major, things that there's so many mysteries also to, like I said, the Badlands and Dakota. We have, there's a bunch of good stuff, but I just didn't want to cover creepy stories, also kind of stories that kind of fit into our narrative and what we're covering. And yes, and these mythological places, they will fascinate us. They will continue to do so in further coming generations as well, because they have energy, because people can literally feel something there, because they will be always somehow attracted. And as long as there's curiosity and people willing to discover, like we are, thank you so much. There will be, more videos, more knowledge pouring into society, more material that would circulate. And that kind of, it like we're saying, it's all a field, it's all connected. Whether we speak it or we just think it, it's already there. And therefore, by researching, accumulating, exchanging, we put it out there so other people can think of it, get ideas from it, hunches, inspiration, insight, and also look up our material. And that will just lead to a spiritual growth. I totally believe that. The more we know about our ancestors, where we're coming from, that will definitely intensify our, spiritual experience on this realm as well, and definitely give us more connection and more meaning to things. And there is no coincidence. We're not just a rock that coincidentally created some organic life, right? It's all somehow part of an incredible design that we have the privilege to be part of this incredible clockwork called life. So thank you so much, Dragon Slayer, for coming out. Thank you to the chat being out here. You guys, incredible. This was much nicer than raging about back. Yeah, it's not a pace. It's a pace of change. It's a different. It's a change of pace for sure. We have those moments and we have these moments as well. Thank you. Definitely catch us next Tuesday. Three Sages and a Time Machine. Definitely also some cool projects coming up with the show. Catch me also, of course, next Thursday with my open class tutor, which is happening at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we talk about more the entertainment biz, the industry, currents and developments, as well as news. Saturday, Saturday Night Hypnosis with this other beautiful fellow member here, and with Ryan Roger Athay. Shame on you, who betrayed us miserably today, but he will be back next Tuesday. Shame on you.
Oh,
Otherwise,
and Chad,
yes.
we do want to mention one quick thing. Wait, hold on. Before we do that,
Sure.
Coach, we need to mention to you guys, if you go to the playlist section of the COACHMC studio, you will be able to see all our past Three Stages and a Time Machine streams. And if you want to catch up on other topics of the esoteric type that we watched, and you can see Ryan being the edgy comedic airman that he always is.
Yes.
But I just wanted to advertise that, because if you ever want to just binge watch us talking about the mysteries of existence of life, then, or just want to hear Ryan bullshit out of randomness of his good heart, then please do so. We don't have a Discord yet.
Yet,
Eventually,
no.
we will be. We are in the works of
We're buckling up
implementing
for the
more things for the show. But
sure.
if for now, I would recommend that you guys do check out the playlist, but also if whenever we're ready, Coach. I mean, hey, if you guys want to, you can also check out the Coach MC on Twitter as well. I believe you do have a Twitter handle, and
I do. It's
I'm
the
not
Coach
sure
MC.
if the link is in. Oh no, the link is it in the description? I don't think it is, but
no.
we can always link it. I'll link it real quick. But chat,
Thank you.
I will tell you this: you should follow me and the Coach MC. All right, because we're not only the host of this wonderful show, but as Coach said, we are part of the Saturday Night Hypnosis, where basically, instead of us talking about esoteric topics, we join a group of equally insane nerds and artists
and bigots, for sure.
And bigots that just want to talk about just to let it out there.
Just let it out there. We need an exhaust
crazy
valve.
stuff that's happened in the week.
We also sometimes need to be infantile and naive and a bit childish in our behavior, just for a couple of hours, and then we can return to these mature researchers and cool guys and nerds. Thank you so much for stopping. We have to go. I have to go. I'm sorry, there's somebody waiting for me, and a huge manifestation. I'm already late, but I wanted to be with you guys as well. I can't just leave you out there. So my time, I rather split it up, but at least I could, hopefully we could deliver you something. This, subscribe to this beautiful gentleman here as well. Dragon Slayer
commentary. Right. Search it on the YouTube search. And don't worry.
Yeah, stay loyal to our program. Spread the message. The more we are, the more fun it potentially can be. See you next Tuesday. And go now and have fun in the world out there. Have fun. Just go. Just go.
You're ready to perform. Go.
You're ready to perform. But also come back. Ciao.
Yes.